Okay, beautiful view of the New Zealand countryside. There's a rainbow over here. Dappled sunlight on the Ruahines. Oh, brief introduction under 30 seconds. Panning around. See my goats. Town, small town over here. Just stunning New Zealand landscape. And we've got Mount Ruahines over here. Alright, so I must have had the stream around 8 months ago. I posted a preview for the stream some time ago, and this is now the full version, so please refer to the disclaimer in the description box if you've not already done so. I'll just crack straight into it. In the stream, which I believe was from God, which I believe was prophetic, which the Holy Spirit gave me, I was a New Zealand soldier. I was around the age I am now, mid-30s, and I was fighting in a squad. It was a platoon of, I don't know how big they are in the New Zealand Army. It was about 15 guys, and we had assault rifles, and we were moving quickly down a street in a large city on the eastern seaboard of China as part of the Allied invasion force, the combined Allied invasion force, which have been shown will include massive contingents of troops from not just the United States, but certainly New Zealand and Australia, and I'm certain many other countries as well. To be clear, this is at the end of the war, so the time I've been given when this took place was roughly around 2043, 2044, early 40s. It was right at the end of the war because, I mean, we were invading China. We'd taken back all the Pacific Islands we'd lost, and then, yeah, this was the ground invasion of China. And this was a scene from one of the battles in one of the cities as we went through, we were going through. And it was on top of, I was running down the street with my squad mates. And yeah, there was quite a lot of machine gun fire and sounds of battle around us, but the resistance was relatively light. And then our platoon, our sergeant told us we needed to secure this building. It was about 8 or 9 stories tall. So we sprinted up. All the electricity in the grid was all smashed up so that elevators weren't working. So we ran up the stairwell and we got to the top of the building. It was a little kind of covered doorway on the top of the building, and we went out, came out that door, and as soon as we came out, we ended up getting pinned down by just suppressing fire. I don't know, it wasn't suppressing fire, just gunfire from the enemy. So 3 of our guys moved across from this covered entrance to where the top of the stairwell came out, the top of this building, and behind a kind of, it was like a large concrete structure on top of this high-rise block as well, and they sprinted, and 3 of them jumped behind that bit of cover. And then after about 5 or 10 seconds, me and another 2 of the guys, we also sprinted, and they were shooting at us as we went, but we managed to evade it, and then we took cover behind this building. And then I poked my head around the corner. I could see on another rooftop about 50, 60 meters away, there was a knot of 3 or 4 Chinese guys shooting at us with simple weapons, simple machine guns. And they weren't soldiers, they were kind of civilian militia, or paramilitaries. They weren't proper soldiers. They were defending China, but they weren't in the military. And the symbolism of this is that by this point, most of China's soldiers will have died in their overseas wars. And they won't have anyone left to defend their country with. So they'll just be giving guns to lightly trained civilians because that's the best they'll be able to do. So I can't do it with both arms because I'm holding this camera, but I fired a burst from my assault rifle at this knot of enemy troops 50 or 60 meters away, and then I was out of ammo, and I yelled to one of my squad mates who was still behind that structure at the top of the stairwell. You know, that was the cover. We had to run like, say, 7 to 10 meters. That's 20 to 30 feet to get from that piece of cover, to this one. And then I was out of ammo, and so were all my guys. And I recall shouting to one of them, "I'm out." And then one of them threw me a magazine, and I clicked it into my assault rifle. And then I leaned around the building again. I lifted up my gun, you know, put the butt of the rifle against my shoulder, you know, scope up to my eye, close my left eyelid, close my left eye to look through it with my right eye, and I zoomed in, and I could see, in the dream it was very clear, it was a Chinese guy. He would have been aged early 40s, 42. He was really out of shape, he was really overweight, which partly reflects the fact that they would by this point be desperate for just anyone they could get to defend their country. And he had a white singlet on, and he was mostly bald. He had a little kind of stubble on his head, and he was sort of unshaven. His had a kind of a scraggly beard. He looked out of shape and sort of like he'd been seeing stress from the situation of war and invasion that China now found itself in. And he started to raise his rifle towards me, but I was quicker. I calmly took aim, and I aimed at the center of his forehead, and I just got off his shot and shot him in the forehead, and he went down. And yeah, basically we won that little firefight, and it was a scene of, you know, our squad, we won that little skirmish. But the more general context was our group of invading troops, which probably comprised of New Zealanders, Australians and Americans, probably others, were winning this battle. And we were kind of steamrolling the Chinese in the city. I had another dream where God actually used the phrase that we were, quote, tearing through China. And it was showing that the Allied armies were getting very deep into the interior, into provinces such as Sichuan and even into Tibet. There was some interesting symbolism in this dream. The Chinese guy was using an AK-47, and there were lots of AK-47s around. And the Holy Spirit downloaded me with the symbolism for what this meant, because that's not actually a Chinese-made weapon. And the symbolism, the decode is that Russia will be defeated first. Of the major players on the Axis side, when they're finally defeated, Russia will be defeated first, then China. And there was another part of the dream which was interesting. There was this firefight going on, and then at the end of the dream I was shown a kind of gap. It looked like a large street, say 30 or 40 meters wide, but it represented the Sea of Japan, between China and Japan. And then I could see some Japanese people and Japanese soldiers looking at this firefight, this skirmish, looking this way towards us. And they were smiling and looking relaxed and relieved. And some of them had military helmets on, but all their rifles were down on the ground. And the symbolism is that Japan will dip and drop out of the war as soon as possible, as soon as the tide starts to turn. And yeah, they'll drop out of the war before China, and they'll happily just move back into peace. And yeah, as I said, it was showing that part of the symbolism, apart from it being shown that combined Allied armies will be storming through and crushing China and getting very deep into the country and winning many battles. And among these troops will be New Zealand infantry. And straight up, a lot of us would just be pissed off and want blood and payback. Yeah, I was also showing that part of the message of the stream was that China will be the last major big player to be defeated. I mean, the two biggest players on the Axis side would be Russia and China, and I was showing, yeah, Russia will be defeated first, and then we were just sort of finishing off China in the stream, and it was almost at the end of the war. And Japan, which early in the war, they get nuked by either China or North Korea or both, and then they get forced to switch sides and join the Axis side. They'd already dipped, they'd already dropped out of the war. So yeah, that was that dream. There was quite a lot of information about the final stages of the war. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's such a beautiful landscape here. New Zealand is very toxic in terms of the society overall right now. It's not all bad. You can find bright spots, figuratively and literally. Literally, in this case, over here, I'm sitting on a hilltop, and the people in this rural area where I'm currently living are really nice and sweet. And this is the kind of New Zealand I definitely consider fighting for. I wouldn't rule that out in the future. They're beautiful. I mean, they're great people. Beautiful landscape, beautiful people. They're just the sweetest. They're just really good people. Honourable, kind, good moral values, down to earth, salt of the earth. Humble. Yeah, consider fighting for this New Zealand. We'll see what happens. But in any case, given all the dreams I've shared so far about terrible things that would happen to New Zealand earlier on in the war, and some of the other allied countries, from our perspective at least, this is a hopeful note. But, you know, in many ways there'll be no winners in this war. It will just be, I've said in earlier videos, the major civilizations of the world are basically going to take turns destroying each other. So you have to make the determination, well, I think it would be wise as to whether you want to fight in this war that's coming, or whether you want to emigrate to a safe zone country and just skip it. You know, only you know your path, so that's up to you. As I said, please refer to the disclaimer in the description box below. Hope this has been of some value. It's good to be able to finally put out the full version of this video. I put out the preview probably at least 6 or 7 months ago. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.